Most people think silence is just a lack of sound, but the truth is silence is where your reality is actually being manufactured. That means if you're constantly consuming noise, you're letting external scripts writing your internal code. And if you want to bring real vision, your financial goals, or any manifestation down to earth, then stillness isn't luxury or a spiritual hobby. It is actually the first non-negotiable step in order to achieve this. Because as long as your nervous system is still running on old imprinted beliefs and parasitic truths, the ones that were installed under pressure, fear, and lack, those beliefs will keep shaping your perception and they will recreate the same reality over and over again. And silence is the only practice that starves those imprinted patterns at the root and returns the control of your mind back to you. And the last video I showed you that the external world, therefore your environmental reality, is only the effect. The cause is always the state of your internal world, the soil you plan into every single day. But there's one practice that sits above almost everything else, and it begins with this. If you cannot remain still while noise is trying to pull you, then you will keep feeding old patterns and the old reality will keep recreating itself. So I need you to understand, silence is the key of serenity and of creating the strongest available version of yourself. It is the decision to stop watering the chaos so the inner kingdom finally comes under your control. And there's a perfect image for this. The mountain feels the wind. It does not pretend the wind is not there, but the mountain is not moved by it. And silence trains you to become that mountain. And this means you still feel every impact, emotions, old memories, but you're no longer forced to react or to create new chaos on top of it. And I know this from the inside. I also had to go through many structural losses that brought many things almost down to zero. And when that happens, the nervous system does not treat this as a temporary setback. It registers lack, failures, as an active breathing predator. So even when food and shelter is secured, the deep subconscious keep whispering, it won't happen fast enough, what if it fails again? And these parasitic beliefs and truths are blocking you to bring down your manifesto down to earth. And now we come to a very cool example. In Full Metal Alchemist, Edward Elric says something that exactly lands here.
There's no such thing as a painless lesson. They just don't exist. Sacrifices are necessary. You can't gain anything without losing something first. Although, if you can endure that pain and walk away from it, you'll find that you now have a heart strong enough to overcome any obstacle. Yeah, a heart made full metal.
And silence is how you forge that full metal quality inside your mind. One that can feel the chaos and the discomfort, but is no longer being controlled by it. So this means you deliberately sit inside the noise and the discomfort without reacting, without running, and without feeding it. And every time you do this, you pay a small price in discomfort. You remember an equivalent exchange, right? And in exchange, you gain a mind that can walk through chaos and daily noise without being owned by it. To point this out again, you pay with discomfort and while you confront your own mind, and in order you gain a mind which can walk through daily chaos and can overcome these obstacles, and you're able to evolve and to bring down like your desires, your wishes, because you finally paid the debt of those parasitic beliefs. But I will get deeper into it later on. You always have to keep in mind, your mind is soil. What you water grows, and what you stop watering dies. And there is an old teaching that shows this even more cleanly. I think many of y'all already know this. Inside every person are two wolves, one of chaos and reaction, and one of clarity and command. And the one that wins is the one you feed. So if you listen closely, that also implies that you're always in control, because you're the one who's giving the feast. And for most people, this fails because they try to fight their old patterns or lower self with brute force and execution. But this exactly creates the friction, and the old identity will strike back even harder, because it's simple. What you fight, you feed. And this is the law of substitution. Really, write this down. The law of substitution states the mind cannot hold two opposing forces at the same time without creating internal war. That means if you on one side believe into financial freedom But on the other side, you're afraid of being poor and of poverty. This is the exact definition of what two opposing forces mean. Two opposing forces which are clashing against each other. This is why the law of substitution states that two opposing forces are creating internal war. Silence does the complete opposite. It refuses to fight completely. You simply stop giving the old loops attention and any kind of emotional reaction. And whatever you stop feeding begins to starve. And this creates a vacuum that old structures lose their food source and they start to dissolve. And this is the necessary blackness before anything new can form cleanly. Because you don't want to create something on an opposing thought that is like a counter reality in relation to the desire you want to bring down. So at the same time, when you do this, something precise happens in the body. When you force absolute physical stillness, you send a clear signal to the nervous system that there is no predator, and the survival system begins to shut down, and the amygdala, which is responsible for the state of high alertness and fear, finally cools down. And as an effect, the thinking mind comes back online, and afterwards old emotional memories are getting time-stamped as past events instead of staying alive as a present threat. So in other words, stillness is like a neurological circuit breaker. And here's the mechanical truth. So you don't need 100% belief, you just need 51% dominance. And why especially 51%? Because it's all about the stronger signal. Because we just talked about opposing forces and the creation of internal war. If the signal of success and the belief into your financial freedom and that you will actually make it is bigger than the belief into poverty and lack and failure, then this side will win, and this has more magnetic force inside your life. This also goes into the law of attraction, because your internal state is not owned by survival patterns or by negative forces. Because of that, you will be able to bring down your desires much more easily. So you just have to get rid of those opposing forces. And every real session of silence starves the old neural pathways and builds the competing ones. And like I just said, the moment the new signal becomes the majority, the brain is forced to accept this as the primary truth. This is why I just said that you have to make sure that your primary truth is your desired reality. And as a result, both your internal state and external reality will begin to rearrange symmetrical to this primary truth when the nervous system finally receives the signal that there is no predator. The parasitic beliefs and survival truths that were imprinted under pressure begin to lose their authority and their status as truth. And that's the exact tipping point. And now comes the interesting part. The same law applies, of course, to every limitation and every fear. When you stop treating them as present threats and refuse to feed them with more of your attention, then they're going to lose their status as truth. And what you no longer signal as real has no longer the power to shape your reality. So this means as soon as you get rid of asymmetrical beliefs or parasitic truths that, for example, state that you're a failure or broke or whatever, then there's no chance that this will grow into your reality. So to make it clear again, in order to achieve something, you first have to get rid of the opposing forces. If you want financial freedom or love or something like that in your life, you first have to get rid of the parasitic truths that are stating the opposite. And here's the protocol, no soft version. Today I challenge you to complete your first act of serenity. Sit or lie down and command every muscle in your body to be completely still. No adjusting, no scratching, no single movement. And then the thoughts will come. Do not follow them. Do not fight them. Simply do not water them. Just let everything flow like water and treat every single impact with radical neutrality. This is very important. And of course, without any kind of judgment or labeling. And start with at least 10 minutes and do this once or twice daily. But I would highly recommend you setting the bar much higher to about 20 to 30 minutes or even an hour if you feel comfortable with it. And when the mind rebels, this is the exact moment where we want to be. Because on the other side, this is the moment where the old system is losing its power. And then your only job is to stay anyway and to endure the discomfort of dwelling inside your own mind. So silence is the first act of serenity. Everything else is secondary until this is in place. And here comes the sad truth. Most people will almost do anything in order to avoid a single non-stimulated moment where they have to face their own mind. And this avoidance is why the noise keeps winning, because people will keep reacting for the rest of their lives and being owned by their environment, their limitations, and past shadows. And then they're wondering why they're not winning. Now you know the truth. They never stop the noise. So silence is no longer optional. It is the first non-negotiable step of taking your mind back and forging a full metal quality mind that can walk through daily chaos and noise without being owned by it. So stop the chaos, become the mountain, and force the tipping point so that your primary truth is only your personal success and your dreams are coming true, not your fears and limitations. So in the next video, we are going into the structure of the inner kingdom itself, about the higher and lower self, and how the internal battle is actually being won. But none of this matters if you skip this one. So make silence non-negotiable starting today. And I will leave you all with this single question. What creates the most noise inside your life right now? If you feel comfortable with it, leave a comment. I will definitely read it. Otherwise, thank you for watching and stay vertical.